Meldrick walked into the horse barn, a dark blue building with no trim, and he grabbed a small saddle that he helped Evan put on a paint horse named Trailhand. Meldrick's parents had owned Trailhand for many years, and his mother liked to work with the horse, keeping him gentle and easy for children to handle. The first time Evan had been on a horse when he was 5, when he and Meldrick were spending a few days up in Chino Valley visiting. Meldrick beamed with pride as he thought about the horse going to his son and being able to go out on the trail more than when his mother worked with the gentle stud. Okay, Evan, make sure you cinch the saddle tight so it stays on Trailhand, but not too tight as you don't want to hurt him. This horse is your partner, and you want to make sure his comfort is just as good as yours. Daddy, Jason Corbin said he rides his horse without a saddle. Says it's called bareback. That's right, Evan. However, I bet Jason doesn't ride his horse long distances. To ride a horse bareback, you've got to have excellent balance, and little children like Jason don't always have the best balance in the world. Maybe in the future we'll work with riding Trailhand bareback, but for now we'll stick with the saddle. Is that cool? Uh-huh. Evan nodded his head so hard he looked like a bobblehead. Meldrick had to bite his cheeks to keep from laughing out loud. Okay, buddy, let's get you up on the horse. Meldrick picked Evan up just enough so that the boy could get his foot in the stirrup and pulled himself on the rest of the way. Hey, Daddy, which horse are you going to ride today? Meldrick scratched his head as he tried to decide between the Appaloosa named Fricky, the horse that he'd ridden occasionally during visits from Tucson to Chino Valley, or the American quarter horse called Bandit, a favorite of his dad's. After some pondering, he grabbed a saddle and put it on Fricky. It was better to ride the horse he knew, although he'd worked with Bandit a couple of times before. Once Fricky was ready, Meldrick opened Trailhand's stall and led the horse just outside the gate before climbing on his horse. Ready to go exploring, buddy? Evan did the bobblehead nod again. I can't wait! What animals do you think we're going to come across today? Meldrick cracked the reins to get Fricky to move forward out of the barn, and Trailhand followed suit. Who knows? We might see some cactus wren, or rabbits, maybe a prairie dog. Do you think we might see any javelina? Meldrick bit his lip before answering, knowing that the wild pigs were unpredictable with their poor eyesight and their tendency to charge anything that was considered to be a threat. It's possible, but we might not. Don't forget that some wildlife tries to stay away from people for fear of being hurt, so don't be disappointed if we don't see any javelina. Think we'll see any penguins? Meldrick couldn't keep the laughter back this time. Penguins don't live in Arizona, you silly boy. What kind of stuff are they teaching you in school? Lots. The other day, Jason Corbin told me that boys have penises and girls have kitties. Did he now? Meldrick's smile fell, knowing that kitties likely wasn't the term that Jason Corbin had used to describe a woman's private parts. He made a mental note to talk with Jason's parents the next chance he got, as he was really not planning to tell Evan about the birds and the bees until his son's age was somewhere in double digits. Kitties, indeed. Uh-huh, Jason Corbin knows a lot. Do you think I could invite him over for a sleepover sometime? We'll worry about Jason later. Let's just focus on riding, little man. The thought of having a boy who was 8 years old going on 21 staying at the house and having Evan's rapt attention for more than a few minutes at a time was not one that Meldrick needed rattling around in his head right now. He couldn't figure out how he was suddenly in a battle to save Evan's soul, or at least his childhood innocence. Meldrick and Evan rode to a peak where they could see much of Chino Valley laid out before them. Meldrick remembered when he was Evan's age, riding out to this point and seeing mostly farms and open desert space. Now much of the open space was gone, filled with homes as the community's population had almost tripled in the last quarter century and turned the town into a blink and you'll miss it community to a noticeable hub of people. The sprawl had not spread so much to the eastern part of Chino Valley, so the Stazensky cattle operation was not in any danger of being overrun by California beatniks and other relocated city slickers. But Meldrick recalled being able to walk along any road in town, even the state highway that ran through the middle, without worry of being hit by a car. There were very few sidewalks and no traffic signals. But now, there were not only concrete walkways all over and red and green lights as far as the eye could see, the town government had even seen fit a few years ago to install roundabouts, traffic circles that some folks just could not navigate no matter how much instruction they received. While much of the unincorporated areas of Chino Valley were still rural, the town's boundaries continued to expand at times, and when they did, a flurry of homes would follow. Still, Meldrick loved his small town and hoped it would stay small as long as possible. One area of town that was relatively untouched by urban dwellers seeking rural getaways was the Peavine Trail. At one time, it had been a railroad line leading some of the early settlers around much of Arizona, going through the east side of Chino Valley, and even stopping at a ghost town once known as Jerome Junction. Now the tracks were gone, but the trail served as a place where folks could walk, run, travel on bicycles, or go horseback riding. It was a peaceful stretch, one that Meldrick wanted to share with his son. Meldrick and Evan had only ridden their horses a few hundred feet on the trail when Meldrick heard a noise that made his blood run cold. It might have sounded to the average person like a baby's rattle, but Meldrick knew all too well that the rattle was not making noise at the hands of any human. He quickly grabbed the reins of Trailhand, surprising his son as he brought his own horse to an immediate halt. About 40 feet in front of the horses was a diamondback rattlesnake. While the serpent made for a beloved mascot for Arizona's baseball team, it was one of the poisonous snakes in the state, and the last thing Meldrick wanted to do was to have to put a horse down in front of his son because it got snake bit. After a few minutes, the rattlesnake proceeded elsewhere, leaving the trail clear to be ridden again. Meldrick looked at his son, whose face appeared more inquisitive than frightened. "Daddy, was that one of the bad snakes you told me about?" Meldrick nodded grimly. "That was a rattlesnake, Evan. Promise me that if you see one of those critters at the ranch, you'll stay clear of it. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Daddy. I don't want to get any venom in me." "Does this mean we have to turn back?" Meldrick realized he must have looked like a soldier suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder just then, and he forced a smile on his face to reassure Evan. "Of course not, son. There's still a lot of riding to do before the sun goes down. We always have to be observant in nature in the countryside, but we're not going to let a snake stop us from having fun." "You are still having fun, aren't you, buddy?" Evan's grin returned as he nodded. "Saddle up, Daddy. We're heading into God's country." As the boy beckoned his horse forward, Meldrick couldn't help but wonder who had told Evan that this was God's country. Maybe it was Jason Corbin.